Former Campbell's security analyst Robert Garza says he recorded an hour-plus rant from former Campbell's vice president Martin Bailey, allegedly ripping on poor customers, making racist comments about his Indian coworkers, bragging about coming to work high, and calling Campbell's products highly processed food for poor people, and that's being taking the crazy stuff out of it. Garza says when he reported it to his supervisor, he was fired 20 days later and is now suing for wrongful termination in a racially hostile environment, and he's got it on recordings. Tonight on the Middle Ground Mic, we're talking about Campbell's Soup vice president caught on tape saying the quiet part out loud. He said stuff's pretty much for bleeping poor people. I don't buy Campbell's products really anymore. It's not helping now that I know what the bleep is in it. If the people selling you the food won't eat it, why would you? Quick, before we jump in here, we are now on Rumble. Go on Rumble, find us, follow us, help us boost it up. Rumble is very content creator friendly. All right, let's dive into it a little bit, right? If you're a conservative, tired of the elites sneering at the Americans, or a moderate Democrat, anybody, right? Are you guys fed up with these corporations cashing out on your family's health? I'm trying to get healthier, and I'm looking at these things now, and it's really actually helped me. This is one for you. This is your families. This is not left versus right. This is them versus everyone who has to eat this stuff to stay on a budget and have an affordable life. Let's recap it like a quick little bit, right? Former Campbell's security analyst Robert Garza says he recorded an hour-plus rant from former Campbell's vice president Martin Bailey, allegedly ripping on poor customers, making racist comments about his Indian coworkers, bragging about coming to work high, and calling Campbell's products highly processed food for poor people, and that's being taking the crazy stuff out of it. Garza says when he reported it to his supervisor, he was fired 20 days later and is now suing for wrongful termination in a racially hostile environment, and he's got it on recording, so you can't really fight it. But I'm guessing they're going to try to, right? I mean, I would. It really goes down to, first, why would he even do this, right? He made a huge reference to bioengineered uh, chicken meat, right? That's a nuclear level concern. They're genetically engineered, they are lab designed, and they're created for mass production, but they're not created geared towards nutrition. This is bigger than one VP. This exposes an entire food system that we've had. And if you didn't know, for a long time, the tobacco companies owned the food processing companies. And the tobacco companies specialized in addiction. Naturally, when they owned them, Americans started eating more and more of these foods before they were sold off. Coincidence? I think not. But, let's dig into it a little bit deeper. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this because it's really kind of crazy, right? You really have to, let's connect what's in the can here, okay? Check out this video here. This video that we got up for you guys is going to have some quotes for different things, right? It's going to have some different quotes, blah, 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 about, what the VP said, right? But we're going to highlight a couple of the things on here. So salt, sodium phosphate, modified cornstarch, protein isolate, monosodium glutamate, and yeast extract. These all things pose a risk to you for different varying degrees. And let's kind of go down as to why, right? Let's break down what these do to you because it is, okay, here we go. So the salt, it's 220 milligrams per can. This is the chicken noodle soup condensed, okay? And there's going to be a fact sheet and all this. You guys can reference check me. Maybe if something's wrong, let me know, but this is where I found all my information. One of Campbell's chicken noodles exceeds the entire day's recommended sodium intake for half the population. Sodium is the #1 nutritional cause of high blood pressure. The next one, sodium phosphate. It's not salt. It's a chemical that keeps meat looking plump and fresh. It's linked you'd have to eat a lot, but it's linked to kidney damage, arterial hardening, and cardiovascular disease. And this is backed by research from the National Institute of Health and Kidney Research in the United Kingdom. Let's really dig into some of those carb things, right? Modified cornstarch. It's a blood sugar spike machine. This pure refined starch, your body turns it into sugar instantly. It's cheaper, and they use it to bulk it up. So this is how they're turning those record profits. Let's go to the next one. Soy protein isolate, extracted with chemical solvents. This is not food. This is lab extracted protein, usually made with hexane solvents. Why is it in soup? because it boosts the protein number cheaply. So they can advertise to you this has X amount of protein in it. MSG plus yeast extract. It's for flavor chemistry, not chicken soup. These ingredients trick your brain into thinking something tastes better than it is. It's flavor engineering. It's a flavor engineering trick to cover up low quality ingredients. Sugar in a savory soup, it's in almost everything. It sweetens the broth and makes it more addictive because we all like sugar, right? Them sugary drinks, and it keeps you coming back, just like any ultra processed food or drink that has got those things in it that triggers your brain to go yummy, right? Like how does this become a heart attack formula? The sodium and starch is a hypertension trap. It's a deadly combination for tens of millions of Americans with high blood pressure. The hidden sugar and refined grains equal a metabolic crash. And this is how America has become pre diabetic. Additives equal inflammation. This chemical phosphates and flavor enhances spike inflammation markers in your body. The chronic disease risk, right? So let's look at that. Citing the BMJ and the Lancet, right? The UPFs equal higher obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and mortality. These things are known, but what they'll say is, oh, you have to consume it in crazy numbers. Well, what I think some of them forget is they're recommended what you should eat and what people can afford are two different things. Sometimes this is the only thing that people have a choice to eat because of the budget. Yeah, you can recommend whatever you want, but the system doesn't work this way. And they market this to poor families. It's not an accident, it's a strategy. I mean, their VP said it. This stuff's for bleeping poor people. Share this with someone who thinks that Campbell's is still healthy. Let's really dig into that bioengineered chicken meat that he was talking about, right? Bioengineered equals genetically altered. This isn't farm chicken. This is DNA modified meat designed for mass production. The companies don't have to fully disclose which genes to you, the public. FDA allows minimum detail, and that has been there for a long time. Execs in these companies, Campbell's, they know exactly how this is processed. Hence, the VP saying the things that he said and refusal to eat his own product. Cross reactivity and allergen research still seems to be incomplete. Bioengineered proteins may trigger unexpected immune reactions, but the evidence isn't concrete yet. There's been rumors, there's been some things linked to it, but they have not had a concrete study one way or the other. And the long term effects of this stuff is unknown. There's no decade long human study. Would you eat bioengineered chicken meat if the VP who's selling it to you won't eat it? Comment below. These things are they're critical. They're in our drinks. They're in snacks. They're in foods that are marketed to us as healthy. And this is, to me, this is the first time they've caught a big executive at one of the major American food companies saying exactly what it really is. He called it for exactly what it really is, and that's crazy because this is something RFK has been pushing, but I know a lot of people don't like RFK. Fair arguments, some spots, but this is the type of thing he talks about, right? And everybody goes, paranoia, blah, blah, blah. He's throwing it out there. Well, hey, guess what? RFK said exactly what this CEO said, or not CEO, but VP said at Campbell's. Everybody was calling RFK paranoid. Now that we got a VP on tape saying that he wouldn't even eat these things, he wouldn't feed to his family. So it's not paranoid because the company that makes some of these products admitted it. Let's go on to some of the FDA label loopholes. How can they get away with this with the American public without us knowing? The word or the phrase on a label, natural flavor, is a legal cover for chemical mixtures. It can contain up to 100 plus compounds mixed. Whoa, how is that natural? Less than 2% can hide dozens of chemicals. It's a loophole. Bioengineered ingredients, disclosure means anything. It can hide multiple modified components in those bioengineered products. These companies, like I said earlier, they use these to reduce costs, but not to your benefit. This is not to your benefit, and it makes you consume more than you have to. So they sell more. They can sell you a healthier product that you need to consume less of, and you'd be better off. The chemicals, they keep you hooked. Like I said, the tobacco companies, their parents owned a lot of these food processing companies, and these food companies for a while, like 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was, they owned them for a while. And then the food started becoming addictive, more so than it was ever before that. Follow now because we cover what the mainstream seems to never touch. And I'm not knocking the news agencies are broke. Thank God that you did. But I'm talking, this is just in general, some of these things we don't go after. We generalize it too much. why poor families are targeted with this, right? Why did he have to say something about poor people, right? That means when they're talking about these things, that's what's in their VP's heads at this company. They're not designing it for good for you, da, da, da. They're designing to sell it to a specific base. That means they're designing what they call poor, right? A lot of poor people are on SNAP benefits. So they're designing products to sell to poor people that they know have SNAP benefits that will probably buy it and get the money from the government. Because I'm guessing that when they really think about it, the American public that's not on that probably isn't buying enough of it to keep them where they're at. Why else would you make it that way? Why else would you say it like that? Cheap calories, expensive diseases. This is how corporate food with companies who don't take the right approaches, and there's a lot of companies out there who do, and a lot of companies, to be fair, are making the right choices now. But this is how corporate food preys on poverty. This is why when they talk about poor people are more obese, right? I've learned, like, I didn't believe anything. I'm overweight. I'm working to get out of it, right? I didn't even realize how addicting these things were until I really started looking into it. I should have looked into it before. I should have been more responsible with my own health. I'm not blaming anybody. Understand, I blame nobody for the way I do things, right? I should have been more, but at the same time, these companies shouldn't be allowed to do this. I'm not suing anybody because obviously completely different, but they lie to you, they get you addicted. People on the low income with the least amount of money are the ones that have the highest rates of obesity. People go, well, it's because they don't have anything to do, or they get the free SNAP benefits slash food stamps. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, they get that, right? But they're buying all this product. They're buying more and more and more and more because it's unhealthy. And when you buy these things, you're addicted. So your body thinks that you need more of it than is there. So you consume more and more and more, right? But if we were trained to eat things a little bit better, like how some of the European countries do it, they don't have to consume as much and they're much healthier. And guess what? They sell a lot of the same products over there. They just don't put all this crap in it. What do you think about that? It's marketing language tricks families into thinking it's healthy. Chicken noodle soup sounds comforting, not engineered. Stores stack these at eye level in low income areas. Retailers do this stuff all the time. When you look at things a certain way, it's targeted for you to see it and for you to grab it. That's how it's done. It's retail psychology. Look it up. You will be astonished about why you buy some of the things you buy. This isn't just an opinion. A lot of the stuff is out there, people. And some of it's going to be in the fact sheet. Don't forget to download the fact sheet. Don't forget to check out the blog on this. And again, check us out on Rumble. Rumble, Rumble, Rumble. It's way better for content. But feel free to keep following us on YouTube. We're going to keep uploading everything to YouTube as well. And check out all our social medias. But food desserts force reliance on packaged goods. That means we don't have any fresh options that we should have. These deserts for food where, again, like in a lot of poor areas that don't, like inner cities that don't have the grocery stores, people are forced to rely on this. We're putting our own people in these predicaments. And the Campbell's VP that got fired, he knows exactly who buys it. And he said it out loud. It's for poor people. Their VP called their food for poor people. Share this if you're tired of both parties ignoring food inequality, right? They're going to go give more SNAP benefits, da da da. Yeah, they're going to, RFK's terrible person for getting rid of all these things. Well, do some research, man. And I'm not being a conspiracy theorist because now we've got somebody that said it on tape. You can't deny it anymore. You can't deny that these companies know that some of these products aren't good for you. They know it. They won't eat it. They won't even feed it to their families, but it's good for you. And somehow RFK is the bad guy for pointing that out. Don't you ever think about it like RFK said in his hearings? All those people up there criticizing him all took money from these companies, drug companies, food companies. They all took money from it. They're the ones telling you that this is safe while that VP knew that it wasn't. Remember that part. But what's real chicken? Real chicken soup looks like, right? It's real broth, not dehydrated broth powder. Homemade broth contains collagen, minerals, nutrition, right? The real vegetables, the no powder, contains fresh onion, carrots, celery, no sugar ever. But I know some people do sprinkle a little bit of sugar in some soups and things like that to really help with the acidity. I can say that works. You don't got to overdo it, just a pinch. No phosphates when you make it at home with fresh ingredients. No isolates, no MSG. Want a middle ground soup? I make a really good lentil bean soup. My wife loves it. It's German, but woof, love it. Comment yes, I'll share it. Calling out Campbell's, and it's not just about calling out Campbell's, right? But Campbell said that they're gonna comment on this, and they did let go of that VP. But you know what though? They haven't really issued a statement on this. Do the right thing, Campbell's. I know you're trying to improve your products now because you don't have a choice, but do the right thing. Tell the public what they should know. be the industry leaders in fixing these problems. You're a national brand. Hell, you're a worldwide brand. You're one of the biggest brands in the world. Do the right thing. Get rid of these things. Tell people what you're doing. Be the leaders. That's how the companies 100 years ago have been around for a long time did it. They took the risk. They were the leaders. They changed things. They didn't just stay with what was safe. Why won't your executives eat your product? That's the real question. If an executive doesn't eat his own product, if you catch him saying that or anything of the nature, let us know. But yeah, if you won't eat the product, I sure as hell am not. Why did your VP call your customers poor idiots? Why is he making racist statements against Indian people, calling them stupid? Why are bioengineered ingredients hidden behind vague labels? Why does your soup contain more sodium than a Big Mac? Come on the show. Or anybody that knows about it, come on here, defend their product. Tell us, man, maybe tell us we're full of crap. Tag Campbell's in the comments. Let's force a response. Let's get Campbell's. And this, again, this is not bashing the company. You guys got to do the right thing. You guys got to get out there in front of the PR thing. Come on here. Tell people what you're really doing. I can imagine you're probably making better choices by now, but come on here and tell people. Don't hide. Do the right thing, because you know what? The public has proven that when companies do things like this, they go and there's an issue and then they go in and they do the right thing, that people will trust these companies again. As long as you're doing the right thing and you're not lying to them. It's very, very sad that we even have to go through this. This isn't partisan. It's American. We all eat food. Big food is bipartisan. Both parties over the history have protected it. You hit this hard. You have to hit this hard. You have to tell them that this isn't acceptable. Real transparency starts at the ingredient label, and us not allowing certain things like they do in Europe, where people seem to not have some of these issues in their food. But you, the audience, the consumers, deserve honesty. But you change this by demanding better food, because it's up to you to make the difference. There's tons like Doritos, Lay's, all those companies are doing the right thing. Coca-Cola is changing its ingredients to be a lot more friendly. A lot of candy companies are. Don't let up. Put them on the spot. Tell them to come on this show and tell people what they're doing. It could even be a marketing rep. Who cares? Let's get them on the record. But I need you guys to put them on the record. Follow us on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube, rate the podcast, check us out on Spotify. Let's push every American in. Let's push this episode in every American home. The VP said he would need it. He's no longer there. So let's make sure America knows why.